It's going to be a long enough meeting as it is, Ashley. I got to get this meeting going. Tonight is April 25th, Tuesday, and I will open our city council meeting with roll call, please.
Bermal,
Here.
Harrington,
Here.
Sittig,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Wason.
Here.
Thank you. Item 3 is approval of the agenda, and to my knowledge, there are no changes to it.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Before I go on to item 4, the item that a lot of you are here for tonight is item number 19, Modern Horizons LLC. I don't anticipate us getting to that in about 30 to 45 minutes. So if you would like to look at a hard copy of the agenda, they are over there by the door, or you can download it at northlibertyiowa.org to follow along. Item 4 is our consent agenda. Are there any items on that agenda item to pull off to talk about separately? Okay, I have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is public comment. This is time reserved for anyone that has a message for council that's not already on the agenda with a public comment time attached to it. Anyone in the audience for public comment? Going once, going twice. I will close public comment period. Item 6 is our engineer report. Kevin.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick update, the Heritage Drainage Project is completed, so that one we're going to close out. City Hall project, things seem to be going really well. They're working on the underground detention and parking lot area, and construction on the building continues, and they don't seem to have any issues. The library, I stopped in and saw Jenny today, so that one's going along well too. They should be wrapping that up soon. The flooring and electricals in. The acoustical panels, she's really happy with that. She said it's much quieter, and it looks pretty cool too. So if you have a chance, stop by and check that out. Last 2 quick updates. Penn Meadows Park North parking. We have a 100% complete submittal planned for May 3rd, and then we'll have a final staff review meeting the following week. And as a reminder, that's planned for a construction to start in July of this year. And then lastly, the West Penn Street reconstruction west of I-380. We had a meeting last week, and we have our first staff review submittal also planned for May 5th. And that's going to identify the necessary easements and acquisitions, and so we can begin that process. And that one is planned for construction in 2024. And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Kevin? Thank you, sir. Item 7, Ryan, City Administrator Report.
Okay, thank you. You've no doubt know that the Solomons Entertainment District is on the agenda tonight for the site plan. I mentioned this in my memo, but wanted to point it out to you in person as well. We're currently in conversations with the developer on a potential incentive package. You might recall Brandon Pratt was in front of you folks a month plus ago talking about the need for that. So we're working through that now and hope to have something in front of you as early as the next meeting, the first meeting in May. So more to come on that. Just wanted to point that out. And then you might also recall last budget year, the street department purchased sign making machine and has an area in their shop for a production area. And the intent of that was twofold. It was one, a cost savings measure in terms of purchasing signs, and 2, getting them in a timely manner. We have installed the Cherry Street no parking or limited parking signs in front of the ice cream shop Heinz and Naomi's. That was done in a really quick turnaround because of that, because of the sign production by our folks. And then another one that Russ just called to my attention this afternoon, and it's actually a small piece of the comprehensive plan. We talk about providing more designated on-street bike routes. And those signs have started to go up. There's one on Golfview right now, and I can send you a photo of it, but it was designed by our communications team, produced in-house by the streets department, and then of course installed by those folks as well. So that equipment is working very well. And that's what I have this evening.
Thanks, Ron. item 8 is mayor's report. I got just a couple of things that I've been doing the last couple of weeks. Last Tuesday, while the P&Z meeting was going on, I caught Kelly at the library hosting an author on diversity, and we couldn't tell who was there, but she did an extraordinary job, and I wanted to thank her publicly for that, as well as the library for being able to host that event. They did a great job with it. And then Saturday, last weekend, I spent in Des Moines with the emergency management group with National Guard, State Emergency Management, on the Iowa Mayors Association. Otherwise, I have 3 proclamations to get to. First one is the NAMI Mental Health Awareness Proclamation Day. Whereas the National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for the millions of Americans affected by mental illness. And whereas the face of mental illness isn't some stranger, it's our coworkers, our neighbors, our friends, our families, and sometimes ourselves. And whereas mental illness does not discriminate, it affects adults, children, and people of every ethnic, socioeconomic, religious, and political background. And whereas 1 of 5 adults in the United States experiences a diagnosable mental disorder, and 1 in 5 youth aged 13 to 18 experiences a severe mental disorder in a given year. And whereas suicide is the second leading cause of death for America's youth ages 15 to 24, and the vast majority of those who die by suicide have a mental illness that is often undiagnosed or untreated. And whereas half of all chronic mental illness begins by age 14, and 3/4 begins by age 24, therefore treating cases early could address and reduce disability before mental illness become more severe. And whereas NAMI Johnson County will hold its annual walk at 9 o'clock on Saturday, May 6th at the Terry Trueblood Recreational Area in Iowa City. The walk aims to inspire and initiate a community conversation about the impact that mental illness has on every part of our collective lives, from family systems to primary health care, to the education system, to the business community and beyond. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the City of North Liberty, do hereby proclaim May 6th, 2023, as NAMI Mental Health Awareness Day in the City of North Liberty. Our second proclamation is for Housing Trust Fund Week. Whereas the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County was founded in 2004, and whereas for 19 years the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County has been creating and preserving housing that is affordable, and whereas the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County has committed more than $12 million for housing that is affordable, and whereas more than 1,100 units of housing that is affordable have been created and preserved for citizens of Johnson County by the Housing Trust Fund, including housing at Penn Oaks Apartments in North Liberty. And whereas the City of North Liberty has provided funding for the work accomplished by the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County, and whereas the Housing Trust Fund's Affordable Housing Highlights programs will take place at noon on Friday, April 28th at the Johnson County Health and Human Service Building, and anyone interested in affordable housing is welcome to attend. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the City of North Liberty, do hereby designate April 28th through May 2nd, 2023, to be Housing Trust Fund Week and encourage citizens of North Liberty to learn more about the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County and their work to promote and support housing that is affordable. And finally, our Arbor Day proclamation. Whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heat and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas the City of North Liberty has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices, and whereas each year Arbor Day is observed by the people of North Liberty, Iowa, with special attention paid to the care and planting of trees, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the City of North Liberty, do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023, to be Arbor Day in North Liberty, and encourage all North Liberty citizens to participate in tree planting and nurture, protect, and wisely use Iowa's natural wonder of trees, that we will ensure a more beautiful city and state, promoting the well-being of this and future generations. That's all I have for tonight. Moving on to item number 9. Oh, I'm sorry, I squeezed right over all of that. My apologies. I got on a roll. Okay. Kirsten, is that right? My apologies. You are here to receive the proclamation for our Housing Trust Fund. Thank you very much. We can take a photo if you like.
No,
or we can just
that's
hand it
all
off to
good.
you.
Thank you.
If you have any words to say,
I just all good.
is that while you do that, I'm going to sign this.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Hi there. My name is Kirsten Fry, and as a member of the Board of Directors of the Johnson County Housing Trust Fund and as a member of the North Liberty community, it's an honor to accept this proclamation for the Housing Trust Fund Week on behalf of the Johnson County Housing Trust Fund. Housing Trust Fund Week celebrates our volunteers, our partners, including the City of North Liberty, our hopes, and our accomplishments. As Mayor Hoffman has indicated, we've awarded over $12 million in below-market loans and grants to area nonprofits and businesses to help finance land acquisition, development, rehabilitation expenses, and down payment assistance for our community members to have secure housing. Those funds have assisted or will assist many of our community members to obtain or retain affordable housing. In fact, specifically, the trust fund has assisted 2 households in North Liberty last year and 3 already this year in maintaining their homes within the North Liberty community. The trust fund appreciates very much the City of North Liberty and your commitment to affordable housing opportunities for our neighbors. Housing affordability is central to the health and vitality of our communities. Among other things, it is key to reducing intergenerational poverty, is foundational to children's well-being, reduces domestic violence and food insecurity, is related to better physical and mental health of our community members, and is in turn related to economic growth of our communities. We hope that people interested in affordable housing will visit our webpage or our Facebook page to learn more. And again, I'd like to extend an invitation to you on Friday, April 28th at noon. The Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition is hosting a public event at the Johnson County Health and Human Services Building to discuss how the Housing Trust Fund has provided and assisted with affordable housing in our communities. Please attend if you have any interest. Again, thank you very much for recognizing and supporting the Johnson County Housing Trust Fund and for recognizing Housing Trust Fund Week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 9 is council reports. This is time I pass it over to those of you that have been out and about in our community doing things on the city's behalf.
I attended the Convention Visitors Bureau Board meeting, but I don't have any major developments to report.
We're only used to major things coming out of there.
Yeah, so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Brian?
So just got a message from Emergency Management Agency that Johnson County has been approved for Small Business Association loans, and they're actually opening a center up at the Coralville Public Library for the next about 3 weeks. Starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, you can go and apply for that. And actually, we'll also offer some help for homeowners too, depending on what was going on and stuff. So, but we had enough damage in the area that we qualified. So.
And this is from the tornadoes that passed through a couple Fridays ago.
Yeah, on the 31st too.
Thank you. Any other updates?
I attended the library thing on last Tuesday as well, and I really appreciate the library reaching out to us, community leaders in a number of places, and inviting us to attend. And Kelly, I'll echo your comments about Kelly Forkenbrock's leadership during that presentation. Also, Brews and Barbecues and planning is in full swing. I think the lineup is to be announced May 1st, so we're excited about that. It'll be the 15th annual, with a couple of years off in there, but so it's I think it'll be a good time, and I hope to attend the Housing Trust Fund Housing Highlights the program on Friday.
Thank you for doing that.
I attended the 2022 United Way Community Celebration of last year's United Way efforts to fundraise, and it was very well attended. Lots of participation with our area nonprofits. Very evident that North Liberty has a stakehold in the United Way's success, and I was really excited to see some of our members of this table here noted as participants as well as members of our nonprofits. And then 2023 is being kicked off with some aggressive goals and some really exciting energy. So excited to hear what's to come.
Thank you. All right. Item 10. There's our 2023A bond issuance, and item A is resolution number 2023-41. This is a resolution awarding general obligation corporate purpose bonds, series 2023A. Hi, Tiana. You have to introduce her, don't you?
Sure,
Okay.
I can do that.
Please do.
I think everyone has met Tiana Pooler previously. However, she is our financial advisor, has been for as long as Tracy and I have been here, for sure, and walks us through every year the bond selling process and has helped us with other pieces of our financial puzzle. So we're pleased to have her here tonight. She will report on the sale from earlier today.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here. You should have a tabulation of the bids that we received for the 2023 A series in the amount of $9,435,000. You got 6 bids. The best bid came from Stiefel Nicholas. We did the TIC for that was 3.44%. Your last sale by comparison, the TIC was 2.87. So as we know, rates are climbing, but still quite a good rate. It is a little higher than what I estimated during the pre-sale process. I think a lot of that is market driven. However, just rates have changed since we started planning. Back in, I think it was January, we had initial conversations with Moody's, who changed their credit criteria. And so, largely because of the city's basis of accounting being cash as opposed to accrual, the city was downgraded from AA2 to AA3. Now, this is still quite a good rating, and it's all in the AA category. I do suspect by reviewing a bond issue that Waterloo had last week that it's quite possible that the city did receive about a 5 basis point penalty for that that one notch downgrade. We won't know for sure. There were some Grimes deals that were sold today, and I'll have a more direct comparison, but the information hasn't been made public yet, so I don't have it to look at yours. And if that's the case, that probably amounted to about $24,000 in additional interest expense to the city over the life of the loan for the $9 million issue. So it's nothing very significant, but it is something that we can sort of look at. For this bond issue, again, the $9,435,000, you did receive about $400,000 in additional proceeds that can be used for streets. Most of that's for streets. There is some additional for City Hall. The debt service is about $47,000 a year higher than what we anticipated, but again, you're receiving more proceeds so that future bond issues might be able to be lessened, or you'll have a little bit more. And as rates are going up over time, I discussed with Ryan today that's probably wise to take the extra proceeds and avoid issuing that much more in the future. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, I would recommend that you award the bonds to Stiefel Nicholas.
Does anyone have any questions for Tiana?
So, Mayor, I would like Ryan to note again, as we talk about the downgrading, the downgrade in the bond rating is very frustrating to me. Has nothing to do with the way that the city manages its finances. It has all to do with the way in which they are wanting us to do business in the future. So, Ryan, would you just recap for folks what that was about, please?
Sure. So in our conversations with Moody's earlier this year, they acknowledge that our financial position is strong. They acknowledge that we have solid reserves. They acknowledge that we repay our bonds quicker than the average. Where they were stuck is that we have been a cash-based audit for forever, and they're pushing for accrual base. There are other cities that were in similar situations. The one that comes to top of mind is the city of Clive. They were actually a AAA rating and got bumped down to a AA2, I believe.
I can't recall, but that
Okay.
would be actually a 2-notch
Okay.
downgrade if they.
I got knocked down to one
AA1.
notch,
Okay,
AA1.
that would be AA1.
Because they were also on cash basis versus accrual. So that's something that Tracy and I and Tiana have been talking about, and we wanted to see how this sale was impacted prior to making any knee-jerk decisions on changing accounting policies. So I'm curious to see how Grimes shook out today, because they are very similar to us, a smaller, growing metro community. So it'll be interesting to see how they sold them.
And they are rated AA2, which was your previous rating. So we should be able to compare them pretty directly to see how they fared in the market today. The 5 basis point difference that I referenced was actually from Baird. They bid on Waterloo and they bid on North Liberty. Now, of course, there are other differences that are harder to sort of tease out, but I actually called them and they said that they think that could be about a 5 basis point difference. And so I have good reason to think that that's what it was for now. I will report back to Ryan and Tracy about what I find out about the Grimes issue that sold today. I will say that Ryan and Tracy defended the city vigorously, and we actually went back and looked at all of the metrics based on the new methodology compared to the old methodology, and were able to prove to them that from a fund balance perspective, you're actually stronger under the new methodology than you were before historically. And so I'm confident that it really is this accounting issue. And so, what remains is, is it worth the cost and, the time? We sort of said, the city's been very proactive in managing its finances quite well. And we argued that it's not quite fair to penalize them for a business decision that they didn't even have an opportunity to respond to. I mean, you can't do anything about that in such a short amount of time. And, they dug in their heels and this was the result. But, I think that the city still has quite a bit to be proud of in its finances, and this is really just Moody's opinion. That is unfortunate that it has fallen out this way for you.
Mayor, very well said. Thank you both. I think that's important to highlight publicly when people hear tonight of that downgrade and why that was. It has nothing to do with the work of the city and the way in which we manage our finances. It's truly in the way they are looking at the way we audit and account. So thank you.
Absolutely. Anything
Thanks for
else?
bringing that up, Brian. Anything else, Tiana?
Nothing from me. Any other questions?
Any questions? All right. Thank you for coming over.
Again,
Safe
absolutely.
travels home.
Thank you.
Item 11 is GRD Burleson annexation, and I'm sorry. Oh, we need to
No
finish this
action on
off,
the
don't we?
resolution.
Yep, I need you to
I
do
got
that.
so many things on the agenda, Tim. I'm just trying to plow through
I
everything.
understand.
We'll keep you on track.
All right. Hey, could I have a motion for consideration for resolution?
Second.
It was moved and seconded?
Yeah, Ashley moved.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Tracy, roll call, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Bermal,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Tiana.
Now you may
Thank you.
Item 11 now is GRD Burleson annexation, and item A is our public hearing regarding the annexation of property as requested by GRD Burleson. Is there anyone in the audience to participate in public hearing on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And item B is our resolution number 2023-42, a resolution approving annexation of certain property by the city of North Liberty. I'll entertain a motion for this consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Do you guys have any questions about this that you haven't already asked? All right. Tracy, a roll call, please.
Bermal,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 12 is our street maintenance facility interior remodel project, and item A is resolution number 2023-43, a resolution approving the services agreement between the City of North Liberty and Shive Hattery, Inc. for the streets and maintenance facility interior remodel project. Could I have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions on this one? Tracy, roll call, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Bermal,
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 13 is our Penn Street Railroad Crossing project, and item A is resolution number 2023-44. And this is a resolution approving the services agreement between the City of North Liberty and Shive Hattery, Inc. for the Penn Street Railroad Crossing Improvements Project. Could I have a motion for consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions on this one?
Are we paying for an additional crossing for the trail, or because there's a sidewalk there, we don't have to pay for it again? I'm just curious.
Slightly. They're going to add one more precast panel to make sure it's wide enough for the new 8-foot wide trail.
Right, but we don't have to pay for an additional crossing.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Crossing, like signage or?
No, I mean, generally, the railroad can charge us to cross the rails, so. I just-
Oh, no.
Okay.
Any other questions? Tracy, roll call, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Bermal,
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 14 is Water Tower Place Developers Agreement, and item A is resolution number 2023-45, a resolution approving the developers agreement for Water Tower Place, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for this one, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Do you guys have any questions about this? All right, Tracy, roll call, please.
Harrington,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Bermal,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 15 then is Water Tower Place Preliminary Site Plan, and item A is staff and commission recommendations. Russ?
Okay. So this is 44 townhouse units. This would be on proposed Lot 5 over at Water Tower Place subdivision. It's pretty straightforward. It's a townhouse development on the front edge of that facing Kansas Avenue. So commission did consider this last Tuesday and unanimously recommended approval.
Any question for Ryan? Item B is applicant presentation. Any presentation to be had, Russ?
Well, I think John's here, but I think it's pretty straightforward. I know John's here if you have any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? All right. Item C then is resolution number 2023-46, a resolution approving the preliminary site plan for Water Tower Place, Lot 5, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for this, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do you guys have any questions on that? Tracy, roll call, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Bermal.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 16 is Solomon's Entertainment District Preliminary Site Plan. Russ, staff and commission recommendations.
Okay, so we've been working on this one for a little while. These are two pretty big buildings. They're north of 30,000 square feet. So they're two very large buildings as far as a retail use would go. I think the brewery going across the street was about 21,000, including the porch, and that's a pretty big building. So we spent a lot of time kind of trying to break up that mass and that elevation. So we went back and forth with design, I think, quite a bit, with just really, again, trying to break up that mass. And to achieve that, you kind of have breaks in that plane, both kind of vertically and horizontally. So I think they responded well, did different uses of materials and colors. I think there was a very good attention to pedestrian connection, both to the public sidewalks and between these two buildings. So we're very pleased with how it ended up. I have a couple of renderings. There's a site plan on the screen there, and just a couple of renderings, kind of how it looks during the day. Again, you can kind of see that vertical change, and the building on the left kind of projects out a little bit more to break up that plane. This is the sports complex over to the west side. Again, very large building, and again, trying to break up that plane with different materials and different projections and things like that. Again, Planning Commission did consider this last Tuesday. There were 2 findings, and they unanimously recommended approval at that meeting.
Thanks, Ryan. Item B is applicant presentation. Brandon, anything else to show us?
Don't have anything to add, but happy to answer any questions anyone has when you guys are ready.
Anything for Brandon while he is here in person?
So Brandon or Russ, the west elevation of the Palestra, as you're coming, I assume the majority of outside traffic is going to come from the interstate coming east on Penn there. Is there going to be signage on that side of the building? Is that allowed?
Would be allowed. I don't
Okay.
know that I don't recall seeing any on any renderings, but it would be allowed.
And we are, on the site plan, we do have a monument sign then would be the southwest corner, so we anticipate utilizing that.
Okay. And then I know it's a bit early here. I think I love the concept. My only concern with this at this point, having chasing young kids for as long as I have at these types of places, is just that pedestrian traffic safety issue, and that whatever that walkway is has that true safety for the kids that get away from mom and dad that are have been all excited about eating pizza and are ready to go play basketball when they go darting across the parking lot. That's really something that staff takes a look at. But other than that, it's a beautiful building.
I'll make one comment. As a father of 4, I understand what you're saying. We spent a lot of time making sure that crosswalk between the 2 buildings are not only lighted, also protected with bollards, and then connected, obviously, with a different colored concrete. So, and it's wider than it looks. Keep in mind that these 2 elevations these are big buildings. So on there it might look pretty small, but those are pretty significant in size. I think they're 9 foot across. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
And the buildings will look pretty similar?
Well, our goal is to tie in Solomon's Entertainment District, both these first 2 buildings and then future buildings to the east with similar materials. So you can see there's touches of earthy tones and touches of white on both. I mean, I anticipate you'll see a little difference probably in the actual product that we put on the outside, but the color palette goal is to make it all flow together.
Yeah, I like the different little bump outs and elevations in the roof line.
Yeah, thank you. We spent a lot of time working through that with staff.
And then Lot 3, which is undeveloped.
Yeah.
How big is that compared to this lot?
Ooh, you're testing me right now, but it's about a third. So each lot represents about 1/3 of the overall. I think it's 8 plus or minus 8.5 acres. So I think we're somewhere around 2.75 acres total.
Okay, so a good chunk left to do something.
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah. You're essentially looking at about 2/3 of the development.
Good questions. Anything else for Brandon? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item C then is resolution number 2023-47, a resolution approving the preliminary site plan for Solomon's Entertainment District lots 1 and 2, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for this, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded and thirded. Any other questions? Tracy, a roll call, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Bermal.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 17 is a Steinler Orthopedic Clinic preliminary plat. Russ, back to you.
Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. It's 2-lot subdivision. One of the lots is 8.93 acres. In the next request, you'll see the Steinler Orthopedic Clinic on that. Lot 2 is much larger, is a little over 27 acres. Don't really have any development on that portion of it. That'll be at some point in the future, but we would expect compatible development with the clinic. Planning Commission did recommend approval at its meeting last Tuesday, and staff does as well.
Any questions for Ryan? Is there an applicant presentation?
I know they're not here,
Okay.
but I did talk to them this afternoon, so I think what we discussed is pretty straightforward request.
Good looking site plan. Do you guys have any questions? Okay. We'll move to item C, which is resolution number 2023-48, and this is a resolution approving the preliminary plat for Steinler Medical Park Minor Subdivision, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. I don't think there's any other questions. Tracy, a roll call, please.
Sittig,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Bermal.
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 18 is the Steinler Orthopedic Clinic preliminary site plan. And Russ, back to you on this one again.
Okay, so this is just under a 83,000 square feet. So this is actually much larger. So this is a big facility on that 8-acre parcel. As you can see, it fills up that site quite a bit. I give a rendering kind of on the next page. It's difficult to see, but it's a one-story building. But again, a lot of variety with planes, and so a very nice looking building. We've been anxiously awaiting for this to come in, so we're excited for them to begin construction this summer. Planning Commission did consider this as well. Recommends unanimous recommend approval.
Thank you. Any questions for Russ? Probably no applicant presentation then?
Correct.
All right. Item C is resolution number 2023-49. This is a resolution approving the preliminary site plan for Steinler Medical Park subdivision, North Liberty, Iowa. Can I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional questions on this?
Do we have any indication of when they're planning to begin?
The discussions I have begin construction this time in the summer and then open sometime next year.
Great question. Anything else? Tracy, come roll call, please.
Bermal.
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
Siddick.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 19 is our Modern Horizons LLC zoning map amendment. And before we get started on this, I want to let all of you know, normally our council meetings are not this much fun to sit through in advance of that, so you guys have got a front row seat to the future here. For those of you that have not been to a council meeting, though, I want you to just quickly understand what we will be doing up here tonight. The first item that we'll talk about is staff presentation. This is going to be similar to what you would have seen if you had been here for the planning and zoning meeting. Second then is going to be the applicant's presentation. And again, this is going to be similar to what you would have seen at the P&Z meeting. And third is going to be our public hearing. And this will be time that anyone in the audience is welcome to provide comments. Once the public comment then is complete, I'll close the public hearing and move to discussion amongst the council and staff. The council discussion then is meant to allow for us to provide our feedback and ask questions to staff and to each other. There will not be any more opportunity for discussion with the applicant or the public during that time. And finally, this is the first of 3 readings that we will go through for this type of business. So after tonight's discussion, and if council allows, we will have 2 additional readings and discussions about the rezoning request, and we'll have public comment added to both of those readings as well. All right, Russ, I'll start with you again.
I'm sure you'll recognize probably need to spend a little bit more time on this one. This is one of these that I'll call the somewhat the last piece of the puzzle kind of fitting in, and these are the toughest ones that you experience, right? It's an infill project, in this case, around a neighborhood, and those are typically more times than not a challenge. So the request before you today is to have multiple single-family residences and a common area, common building on one lot, so that the PAD is planned area development. It actually attaches a preliminary site plan to the rezoning, and it compels development consistent with that site plan. The waivers that they're requesting, which is allowed by the zoning, is to have multiple single-family homes on one lot and to have separation distances between buildings as opposed to individual houses on individual lots. As you look at our comprehensive plan, newly adopted comprehensive plan, previously it was just residential and didn't give us a whole ton of guidance with respect to what that density limitation would be. As we adopted our new comprehensive plan, it was designated urban low intensity, which I feel is pretty appropriate. Generally, that's a density of 3 to 8 units to the acre. And this is language from the comp plan. Lot sizes can vary within development to provide different housing types. So that's the bottom map, the map to the north. The green area in the middle is what the current zoning is, ID, interim development, and is obviously surrounded by RS4 zoning, and just a small P, which is to the south, which is a public park. So here's a preliminary site plan, and again, this attaches to the rezoning. The development must be consistent in a manner with this. There are some code authorized flexibilities, but not a lot. It just deals with, thresholds for setback reductions and things like that. Site plan depicts 34 residences, clubhouse, common area. There would be a private street that goes around. As proposed, the development would be 3.45 units to the acre. Before right-of-way dedication, they are proposing some right-of-way dedication on Scales Bend Road. The density would be 3.59 after right-of-way dedication, if approved. And just to give you some comparison, Vintage Estates on South Jones Boulevard was 30 units on 8.42 acres. That equates to 3.56 units to the acre, so very, very comparable from a density perspective. Didn't quite get to Planning Commission or City Council, but there was a previous request. That previous request was 22 duplexes in 11 buildings and a 4-story, 48-unit independent living facility, and that density was north of 7 units to the acre. So much denser request. It is subject to the moratorium, and that's why that request didn't move forward. Since then, the applicant adjusted the request that was not subject to the moratorium, was able to move forward, and that's the request before you today. We've had a lot of public input throughout this process. Staff is very appreciative of that. The second neighborhood meeting, I should say, that was for this request specifically, was March 21st. We did that virtually. Approximately 60 people attended. It was very well attended. We do see a lot of letters of objecting to the request in your packet. There's a couple letters in favor of it. I would like to note that landowners from 20%, property owners from 20% of the landowners surrounding the subject property have objected. Iowa State Code, as well as our code, require a 3/4 majority by City Council in order for this to be approved. Some of the objections expressed that we've heard, development isn't compatible with the surrounding area, or the development is too dense, increase in traffic, decrease in value of homes, water runoff and retention, removal of the historical home, the farmstead barn, quality and quantity of the homes being built, lack of privacy or buffering, and the city should consider this for a city park. So these are some of the things we've heard. We've certainly heard more, but these are just generally speaking some of the objections that we've heard throughout the process. So this is kind of this is from the 165.09 in the zoning ordinance is the approval standards. These are what you look at, Planning Commission and City Council look at to consider requests. Certainly consistency with the new comprehensive plan would be one of them. Again, the property is designated urban low intensity. The density range, as I mentioned, is within that urban low intensity. So from a density perspective, staff feels it's appropriate. We look at compatibility and zoning of nearby properties, and compatibility with established neighborhood character. Certainly recognize this is a little different than how the properties surrounding are developed, but when it's at a density that I think is lower. I think the comprehensive plan also advocates for different housing types for different stages of people in their lives, and that's what this offers. Some of these, I think if you look at on the west side of Scales Bend Road, there's a property at the very south end that has streets that are stubbed into that property to facilitate future development. This property is kind of unique. It didn't have any of the streets stubbed into it, so it makes it a bit of a challenge to integrate specifically into the surrounding neighborhood. And again, just to point out, proposed development of this is less than 4 units to the acre. I did hear a lot throughout this process about compatibility with surrounding property owners. I don't want to go through each of these, but it did kind of look at what the density of those surrounding developments were. Ranges on the high end from 2.92 units to the acre, and on the low end 1.73 units to the acre. Again, I think at less than 4 units to the acre, it is a little bit higher density, but not by much. I think I said this at Planning Commission. I think when you're talking about a density of being this close, I think we're splitting hairs by saying this one is much more dense than the surrounding property owner. And I think it would be like saying, well, Fox Run 4 at 2.92 units to the acre shouldn't be allowed because it's much more dense than Fox Run 9, which is or 7, which is 1.73. And again, the extent to which it promotes the public health, safety, and welfare of the city. This is the point that's been debated. And again, it doesn't say the neighborhood. It says the overall city, and that's the way staff looked at it. Obviously, not everybody agrees that this is the best use for the property, and we recognize that. Again, we do have a preliminary site plan that's attached to this. We did examine that site plan to ensure consistency with ordinances of the city as well as the submittal requirements, and staff is of the opinion that it meets the requirements for preliminary site plans. Just a couple of other things to point out. This, as a senior housing project, we would look at this about being 4.31 average daily trips. That's the number of car traffic trips spread out throughout the day. And with the number of units, that would be about an increase of 146.54 units on Scales Bend Road per day. A fairly insignificant amount of traffic increase. We heard discussion about stormwater impacts. The preliminary site plan doesn't go into the detail with respect to exactly how the stormwater calculations that Kevin and his team looks at. It shows the general locations of where those stormwater features would be. Storm sewer has been stubbed to this site in anticipation. We believe that it would be developed at one point, so that's the logical place for stormwater detention would be. Assuming this were approved, we would look at construction plans. They would have to demonstrate compliance with the city's post-water runoff ordinance. And it may be that they don't get this many of units because of compliance with that ordinance. We just haven't seen that much detail yet. So that would be something that would come after this process. And last, we've heard about it being a city park. We just mentioned that it's not in it's not in the parks plan as an area that we've identified for a parks plan. Obviously, as this council knows, we've been looking at 40 acres on Jones Boulevard between Penn and 240th, and that's really where we've been, I think from a staff perspective, looking at it from a resource standpoint. Okay, so the Planning Commission did have 2 findings. They did accept those 2 listed findings, and we had 4 people there, and it was unanimous. They recommended 4-0. Staff does recommend approval as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Before I let you go, I wanted to thank you for moving that P&Z meeting and for the 4 P&Z council or commission members that were here for it. And it was a long night, so my appreciation to them for doing that. And also to you personally, this has been an exercise in truly community communication. I was the recipient of an email directed towards all of us in Fox Run. I think you said you sent out 105 of those, allowing those folks in the audience and all of our neighborhood to know, as well as the public. So I appreciate your efforts in keeping this transparent and letting people be involved in this.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions for Russ specifically? Yes, sir. Yeah, go ahead, you guys.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So they have like 34 units on here. So, and that's also pending, when you try and actually do all the engineering to it and stuff. Could it go up?
So I don't believe it would, no. The way the ordinance is written, you're allowed administrative approval for up to 10% increase. That I did the math, that equates to 1 additional unit. Just based on how the property's configured, it's not feasible to have another unit. If anything, we believe that the units would decrease just based on the engineering alone.
Do we have any relatively current information on traffic counts out there now.
You had I think was it like
Yeah,
3,500?
MPO did a count in 2022,
Was it
remember,
30?
3,388 vehicles a day. It was about a 4% increase with the extra 150.
And that traffic count on an arterial, well, it's not arterial.
It's collector.
Thank you for the terminology there. Is not, I mean, we're nowhere near even 90% of that capacity, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had numerous requests to reduce the speed on Scalesman Road. We forwarded that to MPO. I think we've done several studies throughout the years. They have not recommended a decrease in traffic. I assume it's due to the low volume, but it's on the lower side of a collector street.
Do you know right offhand what the range is for a collector street?
I don't. I mean, it's
2-lane can handle up to 10,000 vehicles a day if you have good access control, so potentially that high.
Anything else for Russ or for Kevin?
So real quick, was that traffic study done during a particular period of time? Or how was that traffic study sampled, the information sampled?
In 2022, I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly.
Yeah, they were doing a speed study, so they
Okay.
did, I don't know how many days of counting the traffic, but
It's
those are the numbers.
typically during the warm. It's not during like winter. I mean, it's during the warmer season when we anticipate traffic would be higher. As we realize that traffic is coming, from Bobbers and down.
But it's not, I mean, it's a period of days rather than just
Yes.
a snapshot of one day or something.
Yes.
Mhm, Gotcha.
Those studies take place in front of it. Is that right?
Traffic planning standards.
Anything else for this? Okay, thank you. Item B is applicant presentation.
Corey Hodap, developer of the site. I want to thank Ryan. He had on a lot of great facts about this project. We've had a lot of discussion going back and forth, moving forward on different things. We attended the neighborhood meetings like he discussed. It was there was a lot of discussion back and forth of what was all going on, what was going to be built, and what it was going to look like. A lot of the concerns that the neighbors had. But moving forward through this, I'd like to talk briefly about what it is. And I don't know how to use this screen.
I'm sorry.
How do you just go
You
arrows
just
or
give me a point and I'll advance it.
where's the starting at?
Yep. Where do you want to? This is your
Just
starting.
start. Okay,
Yep.
so Modern Horizon is what we're calling this development. It's a 55 and older adult active community. It's single-family homes that will blend in with the neighborhood. It'll have a commons building that will consist of a pool, a fire pit outside. Inside it'll have a workout room, a coffee area, lounges, private rooms for family members. When they come in, they can have different events or different activities to gather and share with, family members, because a lot of the houses, if they have their whole family come in, it's not big enough. So this will give them the opportunity to have private parties. There'll be a pickleball room, a library, and other amenities. Talking a little bit about the construction. The construction will be high-quality construction with materials that will stand up and retain their look for years to come. We're a part of it, so we're going to do our best to make this this project a long-lasting and appealing project for years to come. That goes with not only the vertical construction, but the horizontal construction of everything. So the landscaping will be well groomed and maintained and looking professional for over the years. Okay, drainage. So on the drainage, there's a lot of discussion if you want to go back to this, yeah, we can go here. That's fine. There was a lot of discussion. This is roughly an 8.42 acre site that has no design for drainage. Literally, it drains into these people's backyards and saturates their yards. And they've had issues with their yards for years because there's no design on this 8 acres. So the water flows off the buildings, it flows to the adjacent properties and saturates the yards. When this gets developed, or if it does get developed, all the water will be contained and drained into a dry basin and then slowly released downstream in through the storm pipes, and eventually will dissipate all the water that's collected on the site and run it downstream. I can't say this will solve the issues with the neighboring yards, but it can only help the problems that they're having with the saturation of the ground. Briefly, talking about traffic, Ryan hit a lot of great facts on this one too. I'd like to just touch base. I did a little research on what if this was a single-family development instead of an adult active community development. So we're looking at 4.35 trips a day. I had research stating more than this for trips made by a single family, but they're saying within the area, you'll have roughly 20 trips per day per household. Obviously, it's two family, or two, like husband, wife, and then their kid. So it could be more than 20 trips if their kid was driving. So I think the impact of a single family neighborhood would be a lot more on the collector street versus the independent living, or not the independent living, I'm sorry, the adult active community. I believe this will have a very small impact on Scales Bend Road. I feel some of the neighbors' concerns, I feel for some of the neighbors' concerns about the speed on that road, though. There is a lot of traffic that whistles by there at, a high rate of speed. There are crossings and everything else that kids have to get across that street. And I am with the neighbors on trying to reduce the speed, at least to the Fox Run point before they get north any further. So that section coming off of 965 going northbound, if they could slow the traffic down before or after you get to Fox Run, that would be ideal, I think, for everybody. It's just a recommendation, but I think it would benefit everybody's needs. All right. Property values, I'll let Melissa speak on that one a little bit more. But the homes will be equivalent or have similar values adjacent to the homes that are there right now. The aesthetics, the Vintage Estates property will be very similar to what we're trying to propose to build here. They'll all have hardy board siding, they'll have stone, the interiors will be more modern and well-maintained. The outside will be, the back side of them will be all maintained because it's a community, right? So it's a co-op that we will not allow something to be run down or the yards to look bad. So the neighbors that are concerned about what it's going to look like in their backyards won't be an issue because it's owned by an organization that makes those decisions to clean up everything and make sure that everything's well maintained. A little bit about the structures out there on the site. The old barn there, we struggled. I talked to Ryan multiple times about how we could save it, what we could do. But basically the structural integrity of the building is not the best. It's not made like the old mortise and tenon buildings where they had a great structural factor. This one is not the best. So anything we tried to do, the economics of it just didn't support it. We looked at multiple different options trying to save that building, but it just wasn't feasible. Moving on, why did we pick this site? Well, this site, we were asked this a couple times during the neighborhood meetings, and it has a lot of amenities. It's walking trails, it's bike trails that run right across the front of the property. There's a commercial park that has Walgreens and coffee shops and other amenities that, these seniors would love to be able to walk to. And it's roughly about a 15, 20-minute walk, depending on how fast you walk, but I would say no more than 15 minutes to get there. But it has other amenities such as bobbers down the road where if they wanted to have a boat or a slip or something like that, they could take their families down there and go boating, and then, it's relatively close to come right back to the property. Fishing is another thing. There's a lot of detention basins that are stocked with fish that, older people, they like to fish. So it has those amenities too. And then the large park coming in the future here would be another great amenity for it. If their kids come to visit and their grandkids are there, they could all go to the park and have picnics or whatever might come of that. But that's why we picked the site. We feel that it'll blend nicely. We feel that it's more about change than anything, I guess. Coping with what happens in the future, and we feel that this is a good fit for the site. So I'm going to let Melissa talk a little bit more about the co-op side of things and then the economics of it.
Hello, thank you. Again, I want to thank everybody for your time. This has been a process. I know you've probably had to put a lot more research into this than a traditional applicant. I do want to correct, I don't think he meant 20 cars per household per day, from the 443 or 445 to up to 20 if you have a house with a few kids, high school age, college age. So, and then I wanted to correct, I did send a letter out, or an email. I apologize. All of you got a copy of it, just in case anybody did have any concerns they wanted to address directly to us prior to this meeting. I only heard from one gentleman who was actually in favor of the project. I referred him to you because I actually misspoke, and I said into the wastewater system, and I meant to put the sanitary sewer system for the water runoff. So just to correct that quick. But this example is just some of the people, for example, like Vintage Estates, that we are looking at towards as our clientele. Those that are downsizing, whether it be from an acreage where they can't maintain it anymore, or a large house that they just can't be there. Snowbirds, that's a term that I use just, it doesn't have to be snowbird. Anybody that has reached a point where they like to vacation and don't want to maintain their house. This is maintenance free. It includes repairs on the house, so you don't have to call, somebody if it's a minor issue. It's already included in those fees. So we're looking at people such as your parents or your neighbors now. There are people within Fox Run that could still stay within their community and transition into this. I will say that when you factor in living in a single family house, which I explained in the letter, and you add in your taxes and your insurance and your lawn care and your snow removal, if you're somebody that's not there doing it yourself, it does equate to costing very similar, purchasing your own. It's just peace of mind. Right now, we don't have any housing. Can roll to the next one. I think the next one. So just in today, when I did a quick search of homes that were active under 300,000 in this community, not condos, because a lot of those guys don't want to go to condos with an association with a neighbor above you, below you, next to you. They still want to have yards, gardens, that sort of thing. And so there's only 7 right now that are actually single family or detached condos under 300,000. Pending is 20, and homes in the last 60 days is only 18. There is a huge housing issue right now. Yes, rates are scaring people sometimes, not all the time. A lot of people are still trying to get in before who knows what the feds might do next. But for some of these people, and also the economy has put some people in a pinch that before could have afforded a $450,000 house and now they can't. And so what this does is, there's this fear of wanting to sell their house, but afraid they're not going to find anything or they're going to have to settle. And so right now we don't have those people moving into their retirement home, which creates and opens up a first-time home buyer buying a secondary home, or somebody being able to be a first-time home buyer. There's a natural progression and way that this goes, and it starts with finding affordable housing in your community. And actually the council, there is someone on your P&Z that is assigned to a task force specifically for Johnson County because this is a need. And I absolutely get the mentality of not wanting this in your backyard. I lived on Dubuque Street when they brought in the Scanlon farm, and everybody kind of along there had an acreage setting, and you were going to 60, 70-foot lots directly across, which was always a farm, always a big open field. But it's the natural progression, and the city wanted it, and it made sense. So I get that, and I understand that, and I know you guys have a very, very difficult task ahead of you. You're, elected by your citizens, and so I know you have to listen to everybody and take it all in. But I do feel that we've done a fair job of trying to reach out. Like we said, we did come back with a second proposal. Our first one, density was high. Obviously trying to utilize what you can, but swung for the stars and missed. So came back after listening to the neighbors' concerns and addressed each of those, like I said, in the email, as well as to good neighbor meetings and the last P&Z meeting. And so, what's the next slide? I actually already forgot. Is it just the end? Oh, the benefits, of course. Just housing, huge housing, and also workforce. I know we all talked about workforce being an issue, but a lot of times those that are downsizing, they're not, they don't just sit in their house all day. A lot of them still have part-time jobs within their community, especially if it's, something close and local. So that's also an added benefit for housing of this type. And that's it. Yep, that is it. So you guys have any questions for us?
Melissa, do you mind explaining a little bit about the monthly fees as part of a co-op, and
Yeah.
on average, what those would look like?
Yes. So I'm sorry, we are still in the process of finalizing everything. But what you do is you take an average of the overall bulk mortgage. So let's say we built these for $450,000, and then they're only buying them for like $250,000. What that does is that other bulk mortgage covers your community building, and as well as all the land in that share. And so it's more of buying a share into the property. And so those added fees are your taxes, which you would have on a single family, your insurance, your common area maintenance, which is to actually maintain all the, lawn care, snow removal, all of that stuff. It also does include, like I said, repairmen, full-time for if you have issues within your home, something simple as a washer dryer, that sort of thing. So it includes the little repairs throughout that process. So right now we are anticipating, which we have modeled a lot of things after vintage estates, but about $1,850 a month. And a lot of these people, in all honesty, from the research we've done, have come in, they're using the equity out of their house. So they're not even, the mortgage for them isn't even $253,000. They're putting a lot of that down, and all they're really covering is a little bit of a mortgage and then that added fee.
So the dollar figure that you're citing for the purchase price, is that something that they could mortgage, or is that something that they've got to put down altogether? Because I know with vintage estates, you're not able to mortgage that amount. You have to bring that money in a check in cash. And then on top of that, you have to pay an $1,800 a month HOA fee, and that's been pretty cost prohibiting for a lot of individuals in this price, or in this demographic.
Yes, that is correct. Actually, we have somebody at our bank working on that. It would be a lot of potential in-house financing to keep it in there, because it's hard as a co-op. You're getting a share to it. Do you say you don't own your ground? Well, try to find a bank that wants to mortgage a house without the ground, or vice versa. So it's a lot of creative financing to make it happen, and that's what we're still working through on to finalize our fees.
Am I understanding that you folks will be involved in this long term? Is that the plan?
Yes. Yep. Overseeing the management of it and that sort of thing.
How many other parties are involved in that, from the management and operations?
Just us.
Just us?
Yeah.
Melissa, could you go back to Ashley's question just a moment ago? Maybe I didn't hear the answer in regards to the mortgage or the financing of that first part.
Yeah.
Is it not determined yet how folks can pay for this, or were you satisfied with the answer to that question?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to clarify, or?
Well, it's okay. It was probably just me.
Oh, sure, no.
All right. Thank you. Melissa, you mentioned in your letter, or maybe in the email that you had sent out last night about the fencing around the property. Could you help us understand that a little bit? Because the fencing in places where there doesn't exist a fence right now, is it necessary around the entirety of the property, or is it something that can be pulled in closer? And I think I know the answer to this, which is why
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yes, absolutely. So originally, we fenced the entire property. Any pool that's installed in Johnson County has to have a fence around it for liability reasons. Also, to protect the community building as well. It is right on the bike path, and so part of that was, curious kids or someone that might jump off and think, oh, I'll run in here and use the bathroom, sort of thing. It doesn't have to be around the entire property. We'll still allow, those, even though it's a common area, to put flower beds, gardens, that sort of thing. So, and we're not worried about necessarily people coming in, the backside or anything like that. It really just is access and liability for that pool and community building. So that fence could be brought in just around that, if that was a concern of making it feel like a gated, sectioned off area that segregated our PAD from Fox Run.
Thank you.
Just from a finance question, so if somebody was here and then they want to leave, what do they have when they leave that they can say, well, this is what I had, and then try and get their equity back out of it?
Yeah, so that's very complicated. I should have brought some more documentation on that. But essentially what you have is you're given a valuation of the overall property, and that's divided up amongst the number of people that are in there, which will, our final number on the plat will determine the share value. And so what happens is natural appreciation. If the property is, around there start going for higher as well, then there will be natural appreciation in the value of the home, which will then result in shares being a greater value than what you put in. And so you would be able to, there is an option, I don't know if it's in Vintage Estates, but a lot of these that will do a buyback, like they get the first right of refusal to buy it back, and then resell it, so.
So this sounds like a first of its kind project for you guys. Have you been involved in something of this nature, or what experience on the development side and then management of a property like this do you guys bring?
We have not done a 55 and older community per se. A lot of subdivisions in the area, a lot of stuff out in Deerfield. Over in Solon right now we have Old Mill Creek, multiple phases there. A lot of rental properties, so property management, that sort of thing is not an issue. This is just different for us only because it's a co-op. So that would be the only thing. And actually, Corey has our attorney at the bank reviewing everything and helping set things up with us.
Anything else, yes? Okay. Melissa, thank you. Corey, thank you.
Thank you.
Item C is the public hearing regarding proposed zoning amendments. Much like the planning and zoning, this is an opportunity for the public to make comments about this proposal. A couple of stipulations that are different about a city council meeting, I noticed, versus the planning and zoning meeting. We do want to limit comments to 3 minutes or less for efficiency's standpoint. And if you've provided an email to staff or to council, those have been recorded, some of which are already in the packet. And they're there for our records. If you would like to speak to reiterate those comments, you are welcome to. I do ask, though, that if your comments are repetitive or to other commenters, that you please consider them to be heard and considered already, and to allow other speakers to comment. I will open this up to public hearing.
Looks like I get to start it off. My name is John Lohman. I live at 562 Fox Run Drive in North Liberty. My wife Aspen and I have lived in this home for 20 years, and we have lived in North Liberty for 25 years. We also run a business with an office building we built in North Liberty on Landon Road. And I'm here to express our concerns and objections to this rezoning request and development proposal. I would like to give you a little background on the property and then detail my concerns. As you may know, this property, this farmstead, was formerly owned by Claire Mekada family. Claire, as you know, was the former mayor of North Liberty. I understand that he inherited the property from a relative who had in their will that it would never be developed. And my family and many neighbors bought our homes in the neighborhood with this very understanding. I'm not clear on the circumstances, but I believe that somehow Solon State Bank got the farmstead from Claire and now owns the bank, or owns the property, and I believe that Solon State Bank has the property contracted with this developer who wants to raise the buildings and many of the trees to shoehorn in an incompatible 55-plus retirement community. To be clear, I don't begrudge the bank from wanting to make money on this property, and I don't begrudge the developer from trying to maximize profitability on this development. But if you allow this to proceed, then I believe that it will negatively impact the character of our neighborhood, and that is fundamentally my point this evening. As I have said, I've lived in this house for 20 years and lived in North Liberty for 25 years. We have seen considerable development in our neighborhood and across the city. Those have been mainly positive things. When we moved into this neighborhood, there was no house on either side of our home and none directly across the street and no development across Scales Bend. Would we have liked to have just farm fields and green space remain? Probably. Did we object when houses or another subdivision was created? No, we didn't. The reason is quite simply the houses and the subdivisions fit into the character of our neighborhood because they were single-family homes. I've been reviewing parts of the city's comprehensive plan, which states the plan serves as a guide for the city staff, the Planning and Zoning Commission, the City Council, and other city boards and commissions as they set policy and make public investments and deliberate land use decisions, which is essentially why we are here this evening. Under visions and goals on page 34, it lists several goals and guiding principles. The number 4 guiding principle states to reinforce, maintain, and upgrade the character of individual residential neighborhoods. Let me just repeat that one more time. The number 4 guiding principle states to reinforce, maintain, and upgrade the character of individual residential neighborhoods. If a developer simply wanted to build single-family homes, which is what our neighborhood is all about, then I would be disappointed that the 100-year-old farmhouse, believed to be one of the oldest structures in North Liberty, and the beautiful barns would be torn down, but I would have little formal objection. But that is not as what's happening with this development. These are not single-family homes. They are single units in a 55-plus retirement community. There is a big distinction. Ryan Rusnick cited the very same city's comprehensive plan, which has a stated goal of seeking to have a diversity of housing options available for one of the reasons why this development was recommended by the city. I think a goal of having a diversity of housing options is admirable, but this developer is attempting to shoehorn in a 55-plus retirement community that could fit into any number of land areas around the city without objections from the many neighbors.
John, could I ask you to wrap this up, please? We've exceeded 3 minutes. Thank you.
Ryan also said at the planning and zoning meeting last week, maybe somebody else wants to read the rest of this? Okay.
There you go, teamwork. Thank you, John, I appreciate that.
Ryan cited the very same city's comprehensive plan, which has a stated goal of seeking to have a diversity of housing options available for one of the reasons why this development was recommended by the city. I think a goal of having a diversity of housing options is admirable, but this developer is attempting to shoehorn a 55-plus retirement community that could fit into any number of land areas around the city without objections of many neighbors. I'm also told that this 55-plus retirement development is similar to vintage estates off of Jones Boulevard. That might very well be the case, but remember that the Vintage Estates development isn't surrounded by single-family homes and that a significant number of adjacent landowners didn't object to that development because they believed it will negatively impact the character of the neighborhood. Ryan also said at the Planning and Zoning meeting last week that a conventional single-family home development doesn't work financially in this Fox Run land area. Why is that the city's problem? Why not let the market decide? If the bank wants too much money for the property, then it either will have to sit on the property as it's done or lower the price. Why is the city taking a side in this matter when this development will negatively impact the character of the neighborhood? Again, one of the city's stated goals and priorities. After all, there are many unique pieces of land around the city that have been on the market for many years but haven't been sold or developed. Is the city going to start taking sides on the other pieces of land that haven't been developed due to price constraints or unrealistic market expectations? That seems to be a dangerous precedent. I've also heard from Ryan and others that this proposal is better than the last one proposed by the developer, and that very well may be the case, but I don't believe that that's the question or issue before the council this evening. And finally, Ryan and the city have communicated that this development can fit into the land area, and I don't dispute that determination. The question before you, the city council, is not can the development fit into this parcel of land, but should it? If I were sitting in your seats, the other question that I might be asking myself is what is in the best interest of the city? And I again go back to the city's comprehensive plan under vision and goals on page 34. Number 4 guiding principle states reinforce, maintain, and upgrade the character of individual residential neighborhoods. Our community is comprised of neighborhoods. That is part of what makes our community and any community special. Preserving neighborhoods seems to me to be of paramount importance. And who best knows about the character of the neighborhood? The neighbors. The neighbors of Fox Run are telling you that this development will negatively impact the character of the neighborhood. That, in a nutshell, is what we are asking you to do with the denial of this rezoning request and development proposal. If you approve it tonight, then you will be going against this very guiding principle. I respectfully ask that you vote down this rezoning request and development proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Sloan.
I was proud to read those comments. I agree wholeheartedly with them. I'm Sloan Tyler. I live at 45 Vixen Lane. I'm one of the people that is directly affected of it. My backyard is right next to this property, and I thank you for considering all of our concerns. And I guess if I have 30 more seconds.
Not really, but if you could make it short, please do. I know that you're taking over comments. John, that was a lot written there, man.
I would just say that I've heard a lot of things said that really aren't true. You can kind of say anything. You can say it's walkable. You can say it fits. You can say it's fits, you know, it's not high density. When these houses are extremely close together, this isn't the normal plan for our neighborhood. So I would just say to just please consider that if you're really giving it proper thought, it doesn't fit into our neighborhood. This isn't a development that you put in a residential neighborhood, or you would see it all over North Liberty, Coralville, Iowa City. Thank you.
Thanks, Sloan. Oops.
Hi, my name is Chad Meacham. I live at 1570 Otter Lane, where I've lived for the last 14 years with my wife and my 10-year-old and 8-year-old daughters. My backyard is directly across Scales Bend, adjacent to the driveway of the property. So it directly impacts what the property that I bought, that I thought would be living at and next to. Throughout the last 14 years, I've seen development of my neighborhood. Some in here, you know, has gone up since I've lived there. So I welcome the development. I've lived next to fields. Had I known we'd be rezoning for this kind of property, I don't know that I would have bought that home 14 years ago. It's different. We're talking about the density, you know, we might say that it's splitting hairs, but twice as dense as the properties on the rest of the neighborhood. It's not splitting hairs. It's twice as dense. If you notice, these are twice close together. Right, so it is different, and I think that's some of the concern that we share here in this room for those that are opposed to this, is if it were properties being developed that are similar to our own, it makes sense, right? I'll be looking at a clubhouse. That's not what I intended to be looking at. You know, a home across the street maybe, but not this. So I guess I just ask that you, you know, you're hearing this. You've been hearing about this for a while, but I hope you're listening to those that are opposed to it. It's significantly more in the neighborhood are opposed to this than not, and I just hope you're listening to why, and not just a developer trying to make a profit. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chad.
Good evening. My name is Abby Brown. I live at 1530 Otter Lane. I've lived there since 2016. I've cumulatively have lived in North Liberty for about 15 years of my life. To approve this plan, the zoning change, you have to approve the pad with it, the plan with it. So our disagreement with the plan is intrinsically tied to the approval of the zoning. I took notes as I was listening to the proposal from the developers, and I would like to make a few comments. Particularly jumping off of Mr. Meacham's comments just now, it's not just the style of the housing and the density of the housing, which is true, as pointed out during the city's, not proposal, but discussion. It is going to be double the density of some of the surrounding areas. But also, it's not just the single-family housings. There are amenities and facilities that they're touting that are completely different from the area within our community. We don't have a community-sized pool. We don't have a community clubhouse. We don't have a community library. That just will not fit into the design of our neighborhood and the style of our neighborhood. I repeatedly hear this concept of senior adult housing and how this is going to be ideal for community, and then you can grow and move into it. But it's a 55 and up community. I think there are plenty of 55 and up people in here who wouldn't like to be called senior adults. Someone who is 55 is still working for potentially 10 or 15 more years. They're still going to be leaving their house as consistently as I leave my house. They are going to have as many cars as me and my husband have at our house. And the concept that it's going to, because they're senior adults, are going to reduce the amount of traveling that they do on our roads, I think I think it's speculative, honestly. And I particularly want to focus on this farce that it's low income. There was particularly a slide about the fact that, oh, there's no housing within this whole entire city that's less than 300,000. But you heard them say it's going to cost 250,000 plus to buy into it, that they have to bring with cash and then have $1,800 per month on top of that. Like, this is a community for wealthy people. Like, let's not kid ourselves. So I don't think that we are bringing something to this community that we need. I will lastly land on the fact that when I was sitting in here through the city council meeting previously, and I saw the townhouses being built off of Kansas, I believe it was, I thought to myself, why are we building this there? Wouldn't that fill that neighborhood? Wouldn't they probably not have this objection like we are having here? I mean, I think I completely echo what everyone else has said, that I think the fact that you have so many landowners in this area objecting, it's not just us getting upset that we're losing this farm. Like, I back up directly to this as well. It will ruin my view, but it's completely changing the neighborhood. And I respectfully object. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Hello, Bo Brown, 1530 Otter Lane. I'm Abby's husband. Can I ask questions of the city staff? No.
You cannot.
I cannot.
You can. I apologize. You can ask. We may not be able to respond at this moment.
Excellent. So earlier, Grant, you asked this gentleman a question about standards of engineering for the traffic study, and I didn't hear it, and I don't know if anyone did. Could you repeat what you said? Do you remember it? It's fine if you don't. I just wonder if you could repeat the question to him.
I don't know that I remember, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. It was a question about how the traffic study was performed, I think.
Yeah, the MPO followed engineering standards to do the traffic study, and the answer is correct. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify that. And then let me just start by saying thank you guys. I know this job is really hard for what you guys are doing. I've worked with Ryan before. You know, I feel like this community is a let's get to a yes community. And I'm with that sentiment, but I do think we need to, you know, for the people who are voting tonight, just think about the objections that you're hearing, and you know, I would say that it's not always good to get to a yes. Sometimes there can be negative consequences, and I think this is one of those times. So that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bo. Are there any other public comments?
Thank you, Council. Jesse Bermel. I live at 930 Pheasant Lane in the neighborhood, so I'm probably going to be the odd one here. But I just want to thank you all for doing this. This is not an easy job. I do this on a weekly basis in many, many communities that are not growing, mostly in dying communities. And so to hear an opportunity for a developer, I commend somebody wanting to invest in our community and wanting to do growth. I can tell you I've worked in many communities and they're not growing, and this is it's painful I hear both sides, and I could see it either way. But I think what we're opposing here. I ran by that farm today. I heard multiple comments about preserving the farm. I'd really like to know what we're preserving. If you look at where we all live, they were all a farm at one time. We're in a farm, like we were all. Every one of those houses is sitting on a farm, and we're housing. We're going to be housing. We're going to be residential. And so when I ran by that barn today, there's a door hanging off the hinge. There's an open window. There's a brush pile laying along the barns and buildings that look like they're derecho aged old, like they've been there since 2020 is what it looks like. And so I don't really know what we're preserving, and I'm open to hearing what other folks say, but to me, I just don't, to me, those windows and those doors that creates vermin, those vermin come to our neighborhood. It's just when we talk about what we heard about preserving the land, that place is not being preserved right now. It's a bank-owned property. It needs some love. And I think we've had 4 or 5 years to give that farm some love. People have taken a pass. It's now bank-owned. I'm guessing that bank is contributing to the bare minimum to the taxing body. So when we saw your presentation earlier, I think we didn't. You guys should have bold-faced the benefits, because ultimately, if you look at what the taxing body is receiving right now from that farm versus what a new development will bring, I mean, at some point we got to just do the numbers. It's about community benefits, and the community benefits from a development will go way further than leaving the barn as a bank-owned facility right now. And so, again, the bank is doing the bare minimum in terms of community benefits. I think a development provides maximum benefit. We talk about parks and public spaces. The more of these developments we have, the more of those public spaces will be utilized for us in the future. And so I just want to say that I think we should support the development. I hear some of the points. I think, again, you had a good neighbor meeting. Points were addressed. At some point, we have to be reasonable. And if points are addressed, we need to, if they're being addressed, not an easy vote, but I support a development in this neighborhood. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jesse.
Air conditioning kicked on.
Hi, my name is Kathleen McKean, and I live at 551 Fox Run Drive. Public speaking isn't really my thing, but I came here on behalf of my children. Sorry. We're both very upset about losing the farm. I mean, obviously, they don't understand all these objections, which I agree with these objections as well. But I'm here for the safety of my children. My concern is more the construction process, as this is directly the path that they bike to and from the park every day. And the path that I saw two girls roller skating on the way here today. And it just really bothers me that a development like this that is so huge and that will take such a long time to complete, that bothers me that they are going to face having to bike through that. Sorry, this is ridiculous. But also the increase in traffic. I know that you say that the numbers aren't very much, but in my mind that's cars, physical cars, that are turning out onto Scales Bend as my children are trying to bike to the park. And so I guess that's more my concern, is that the increase in traffic during the construction phase, all the large construction vehicles that are going to be going to and from the site, and then the vehicles that are living there, and then all of their friends and family that apparently they're going to be inviting over to use the pool. So that bothers me, that this isn't just a community, now we're talking about all their friends and family that are coming over, unfamiliar with our neighborhood, and also increasing the traffic. But anyway, so my concern is really that this is North Liberty. One of the reasons why we live here is for our children. North Liberty is a very family-friendly community, and that's obviously why most of us have chosen to live here. And one of the reasons why I purchased in Fox Run was because of the farm, and I understand he thinks it looks run down. I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful the way it is, whether it's run down or not. I would rather look at that every day than this property that they want to build. So my kids wrote letters, and so I'm just gonna hand them to you guys so you can pass them around. My son Simon is 6, and he wrote, "Please save Fox Run Farm." If you could just let everybody see that. And then my son Oliver is 8, and he wrote, "Don't wreck down Fox Run Farm, please. Save it. I also want to have a farm when I grow up, so please save it." When I told him that they were going to build this property, he said to me, "Oh no, I was going to buy that when I grew up so I could still live next to you guys and farm," which I just thought was the cutest thing and broke my heart. And I understand the farm's not going to stay. Somebody's going to buy it, someone's going to build on it, but the city still does have the option to save that property and turn it into a park. I understand that that's not part of your plan, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be part of your plan. So after
Kathleen, can I ask you to wrap this up?
I'm done.
I gave you an
After-
extra minute there. I know that this is
Thank you,
emotional
yes.
for you.
After school today, he sat outside the farm and drew that picture for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience for public comment time? And as a reminder, this will be the last opportunity to be able to provide comments to us. Our discussion next will just be with us up here at the table. You're welcome to listen.
Hi, my name is Kevin Bullard. I'm at 360 Fox Run. Really wasn't prepared to talk, I understand that, there's not going to be a farm there forever. I have 3 kids in the home as well, and the distance we have to go safely to get to a sizable park it seems like a lot. I'm a bit of a helicopter parent, and I don't like not knowing where my kids are. The park that's there now, it's pretty small. It's nice to have the basketball court there, but it seems like the park behind Penn Elementary has changed a little bit in the years, and it's a great little park. It'd be nice if we could have something like that in our neighborhood, because there's a lot of families, and that neighborhood keeps expanding as well. And I don't know, this is the first time I've ever been here, so I apologize if I'm asking questions or making statements that have already been made in the past, but it seems like it would be an opportunity to expand that park there to benefit the kids there, so we're not having to drive all the way over to the Penn Park or bike over there and cross Penn Street, because quite frankly, Penn Street scares the heck out of me and my kids crossing that, even with their older brother with them. There's a great park on, what is it, Centennial, is that what it's called? The one that's on the southwest. What a great park. I mean, that place is so cool. The kids love going there. It's hard for Daddy to be able to take them there often, though. Working full-time, being a single dad, it'd be great if there was something closer, similar to that, in our neighborhood that the kids could enjoy while they're being watched by their grandmother or any other babysitter. And I'm probably not alone in stating that this place, this land would be a great expansion to the little park that's there already. And that's one thing I would wish. The folks that are developing, I understand what they're trying to do. One comment was made of, I think Mr. Wason asked if there was if somebody ever wanted to sell, how would they get their value back out? And it sounds like it'd be a pretty complicated process. And one of the comments was made by the developer that if the property around there, the housing, which would be all of us, if our property value is raised, well, then theirs would as well. But our fear is that our property values may not rise due to this. So it wasn't mentioned that if they decrease in value, if they depreciate, they might not get out what they already have in it regarding the tenants of the proposed units here. So that's what I got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.
Allison Strickland. I live at 340 Fox Run. That is actually the second home we have owned in Fox Run. We used to live on Vixen Circle, and we actually moved because we knew that eventually the land behind that was going to be developed, which it now is Buckman Villas, and we had a lot of water issues. So I do understand our neighbors' water concerns. Our new home doesn't have those. We're very lucky. My family is a really big part of the Fox Run community. We host a taco truck every year. I'm the manager of the garage sales, so we really try and integrate ourselves into the community. I would also echo the traffic concerns, not necessarily in the amount of traffic, but the speed. As they said, I do feel that it should be lowered to 30 miles per hour. My neighbors can attest that most of them have probably seen me running around the neighborhood. I am a crazy runner girl, so I run those neighborhoods and those streets all the time. I can tell you that I see the kids running in the crossing in the morning to go to Grant Elementary, and people don't stop for them. There are 2 crossings. You see kids, I've seen at least 6 kids on their bikes waiting to cross, and people are just zipping by. So it is a concern. And I do feel that the city has been ignoring those concerns and listening to a data study instead of listening to the neighborhood for years. So, and I know that this isn't new. My other concern is the cost. My mother actually did retire to Iowa City in 2020 from Illinois to be closer to her children. My brother lives in Cedar Rapids. And when I explained to her this model, she thought it was laughable. And, the cost of just, being a member of the co-op alone is the same as my mortgage. This is a community for people that can afford basically a double mortgage. And I do argue that, part of the charm of Fox Run and a reason that my family has enjoyed living in that neighborhood is, the density of the homes. We have a very large yard. We live on a double lot, so we have an extra large yard. Seeing some of the newer communities, Hoffman Estates too, you see the houses a lot closer together, and part of the charm of Fox Run is the space between the homes, the bigger yards. So I would agree that this doesn't fit in with the neighborhood feel. And I oppose it because of that.
Thank you, Allison.
Hi, my name is Angie Maddox. I live at 482 Fox Run Drive, and we've lived here since 2005. I concur with everything that was said earlier. I just want to point out how beautiful this farm is. And what I noticed when I first sat down is that beautiful picture on your wall is actually showcasing the farm and the neighborhood. And it's quite ironic that that's something that might not hold value to the city any longer. So it does make me emotional too, and I'm glad that Kathleen pointed out how we are all really attached to it. I do think that we are full of creative people in the city, and we can find other ways to replace that farm, not ways that just financially may be of impact to the city, but ways that can impact the neighborhood and the surrounding city. I wasn't fond of the use of creative financing for those that might want to live there, because it does sound quite expensive. And considering that it was said that there are places to walk to, I myself find it hard to and difficult to walk to Quiznos and Walgreens, and I find that I'm physically active. I'm not over 55. And there are basketball courts and the park next door. So it is concerning that if this place has 2 driveways or 1 driveway in, I'm not quite sure, but that kids would have to watch out for those 55 and plus people pulling in, pulling out. That park is going to be up for improvement, I understand, but there's also a basketball court there that my son basically lives at, and a lot of teams play there. That's quite loud, but we love it because it's kids. It's a place where the teenagers can go in this community, and there's very few places that this town has to offer for teenagers. So I hope they don't do anything with that. It's odd to have a retirement home next to it, or 55 plus, whatever we're calling it. The other part is we did talk about affordable financing. In the beginning, I don't find this that to be affordable. And the fact that we had an Arbor Day proclamation and the amount of trees that will be torn down is kind of ironic too. So that being said, the traffic is an issue as well. I feel with the traffic going to bobbers, campers, boaters, motorcyclists. We have a lot of snowmobilers that will come across this area as well. And so I just hope that you guys listen to the community, the neighbors, and understand that we really would like to see something better and find a better use for this. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you, Angie. Does anyone else have comments that haven't already been expressed here tonight? All right, at this time, I'll close our public hearing then. Thank you all very much for your comments and participating in this. Item D is our first consideration of ordinance number 2023-06. This is an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from C2A Highway Commercial District to... No, it is not. I'm sorry. I've been keeping track of the wrong items here. Let's go back and start this over again, please. Item D is first consideration of ordinance number 2023-05. And this is an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from ID, Interim Development District, to RS4, PAD, Single Unit Residence District, Planned Area Development. There we go. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. We'll get into comments here in just a moment, but as a reminder, because of the number of property owners nearby, we do need 4 affirmative to move this to second consideration at next council meeting. So if you have an objection that might be overcome in the next couple of weeks, consider that. If this is not something that you would be in favor of supporting, a 3-2 vote tonight will not move this forward. We do get 2 more shots at this, and any changes, if they can be made, will be addressed, and you'll have another 2 opportunities to vote on this.
Mayor, I hate to do this, but because of the importance of this and the vote that I need, I have an emergent call for work that I need to take. I would ask for a 5-minute recess for me to be able to do that, and then I will return.
I do not mind that whatsoever. We are going on 2 hours here, so.
I understand.
Thank you.
not do
I
it
will
unless
grant
unless I
that.
had to.
I'll grant that recess.
Thank you.
Let everybody else in the audience do the same. Thank you all very much. I'll bring this meeting back.
It's the same.
It actually was the same thing.
And we've had a motion and a consideration for discussion now up here at council. And because I can do this, I don't get a chance to vote on any of this, but because I live there, I thought I would start this off. I know that all of you have probably taken some good notes and have a lot of great questions. I said this earlier, but I wanted to thank Russ and staff for all of the work that they did. Did you bring mittens or any overcoats for us? Tracy, need a campfire down there? Okay.
Sorry.
That's
It's
okay.
cold.
I do know that our community is interested in how we're going to proceed tonight, and I wanted to thank Corey and Melissa also for taking the time to be with us tonight, and also in the Good Neighbor meetings, last week at the P&Z meetings. You heard the feedback from that very first Good Neighbor meeting back in the fall, and you made a noticeable change in this plan. And finally, I want to thank all of you in the audience, my neighbors in Fox Run, for participating and providing this feedback. We would not be here tonight doing this without your involvement. Regarding the proposal and the property, I want to take another minute before I turn this over to council. As you all know, I live in this neighborhood. I am the one that lives the closest to this proposed site as anybody else up here at the table. And I've intentionally not injected myself into this matter very much unless anyone's asked me for my opinion in private. That said, I do have a unique perspective on this proposal as a neighbor and as your mayor. As a neighbor, I've lived in Fox Run for over 16 years. I've watched this property go from a place where they park a tractor and they mowed the yard weekly to seeing the old silo decay and finally had to be torn down a few years ago, and to the home and the buildings fall into disrepair. I've taken both of my kids to this.
Adding an additional 171 single-family homes that are just north of Penn Street. That's not including some of the multifamily residences that will be added to Solomon Landing. Yes, there's definitely a need for single-family homes, but we're teetering on the edge of oversaturation. If we were to look at adding more single-family homes that meet the same criteria as what we are already establishing or have already approved at this level. Right now, acreages, anyone in real estate can tell you that the numbers are insane right now for acreages. Right now, we're looking at an average about $240,000 for an acre. So one has to ask the question, what if we were to turn this into 8 separate acreages and sell houses that were of a high price point? And where I kind of get a little bit hung up is typically when you look at like Lake Ridge Estates, those properties, you have some topographical features and some privacy that we don't have established in this community here. It's largely flat. There's really no hills that would be defining a property. So there's some troubles there. I noticed from our comprehensive plan that we have about 11% population that's 55 and older. So whether or not one argues that's substantial or not, obviously it depends on who you're asking, but recently, like Allison, I moved my mom here from Illinois, and I know that the financials of this would not work out for her. And the majority of my clients that have helped in this situation, the financials would not work out for them. So we're looking at, a situation where, yes, we have a need, but do these financials, does this particular product fit the demand? That's the sell that I'm having a hard time with. I'm also having a really hard time with the fact that this is such a unique infill opportunity. And this is a unique property that, we will have the opportunity to really truly offer a diverse, flavorful, cultural aspect to inject in our community. I love the fact that there's going to be 34 residents potentially that could do that, but it all being managed by one entity has some constraints, and being that it's a virginal project for them also has some concerns for me. And so with that, I would respectfully, I appreciate the opportunity, but I respectfully decline the opportunity to move this forward.
I'll jump in. And Ashley, thank you, and thank everybody else for their time and consideration on this project as well. All the comments, all the letters, the concerns from residents in the community. We definitely appreciate hearing from you all, and especially the staff that have taken the time to do this. My concern has always been the cost of these, and we talk about affordable housing, and I cringe every time that word is spoken, because to me that's still not affordable, realistically. And I listen to you all talk about, the traffic and preserving the farm and all of those things, which makes your neighborhood very unique. And yes, this presents some diversity in housing and the ability for what is still argumentative of older adults. And, just the safety of your kids and, adding to the park and playground and all of those things. And yes, it's something that we could benefit from and would be awesome to have, but I too have my reservations with just the concept of the co-op piece of it, and maybe that's a big part of my hesitation with approving it, but I also I don't know if that is where it belongs there. And as I listen to you all of saying, like, we don't want it over there, I also want to propose to you, like, what would be an alternative or something that you would be willing to accept. And we all know if they were single family units, the price would be double of what you all are offering. So it is kind of like a catch-22. There's no winning ground there, but I would definitely be interested in if there was something else, another thought or a potential opportunity for that land there, what would work over there, because we want to maintain the integrity of the neighborhood and what's there, but we also want to pride ourselves on being diverse and allowing for things not to look the same in every neighborhood. Fox Run not only being the exception, but as we look at North Liberty and how it's going to grow. So I respectfully will also have to say that I don't agree with this and would not be voting in favor for it either.
So, Mayor, this one took more time than any one item that I can remember in homework. Driving to Vintage Estates, taking a look at their final product or what's close to the final product. Driving through the neighborhood, driving, actually probably trespassing at one point, driving into the barn and around the farm there, just to, I'm familiar with, of course, the neighborhood. I live in Arlington, Arlington Ridge, so not getting the ability to walk my dog past there like the mayor every day. Just wanted to get a feel for it. Talking with residents, and reading all of the letters. I really appreciate all of the comments, both written and those of you that are here tonight. Some of the arguments that I buy, water drainage in this town is always a concern. The water table is an issue. A lot of us start with water in our basements, and we have to put pumps in to pump the water out. So that's always a concern. The exclusivity feel, originally with the gated entries and the fence, and HODAP's addressed the fence issue tonight, and I appreciated that adjustment. And not just that adjustment, but the adjustments that they have made throughout this process. You heard them say, they shot for the stars the first time. It didn't work, and they worked through the process, and Russ invested a tremendous amount of time with them, and I believe that this product is something that is out of the feedback of the community, and I really appreciate the way that you guys did that. Some of the arguments that I don't buy, that it would decrease the value of the properties there, I don't buy that argument. I don't buy, we bought our house because it was written in someone's will that this would never be developed. I don't buy that. The city has been in a position to save a historical building once or twice. And in my opinion, we did that, and we are making the best of what is a very overpriced house now in this community. The city saved a historical structure, and it cost us a lot of money. A lot of money. And we're trying to maximize the use of that property now. And we will get good use out of that, but it came at a really high cost. Moving forward, this property is going to develop. It has to develop. I don't believe the farm will stay. I will say, as long as I'm on council, I would never be in favor of the city entering an agreement to save the buildings on the property. I love the barn. It's a beautiful barn, and I love the look of the property. But we've been down that road, and I'm not going to be in favor of that. When you talk about the park and the option of the city purchasing the property for a park, I'm also not in favor of that. It hasn't been in the plan. We are currently investing a fair amount of money in Fox Run Pond Park. We're putting the sidewalk in around the park. We're putting new play structure in there, and that to me is the neighborhood park. So I don't think that I would be interested in the city looking at park property there. This really is a hard one. I've been back and forth 1,000 times, and ultimately it comes down to my gut and what I was elected by the folks in North Liberty to do, which is be their voice. I think it's resounding. The reason that we have to have a 2/3 vote tonight is because of the outpouring of letters against and speakers against the project. And so with that, I'm going to vote no tonight as well.
Well, I'll throw my 2 cents in because the issue's already decided. Okay. Good stuff. Who knows where Fox Valley is? I live on Forever Green Road. That was a huge farm, not just a little tiny farm. Huge farm. Cows, everything. We could tell what time it was because we could see the cows coming home. Remember the campground? That's gone. My neighbors had a huge barn. That's gone. We now paved the road. Now I have traffic in and out all day long. I have tons of houses across the street from me. And my property value didn't go down, so you don't have to worry about that. So the one thing is the city does not own the land, so we don't really get to decide. The only reason that we have any decision really a lot about this is because I wanted to plan their area development and do something different. We don't have a lot of flexibility if they come back with another zoning proposal that meets the requirement. So I'm not sure you will like what will come next. So just letting you know, because we don't have a lot of flexibility. The pad development, we have flexibility because we can say we don't like that, okay? I'm not sure that's incompatible with the neighborhood because, it's just another part you would add to your neighborhood and you would incorporate that into your neighborhood. It's an opportunity. The finance part is not our problem. Apparently these things are very popular, going up all over the state, all over the country. The Vintage Estates is already built out and sold all out. So there is a demand. Me being 55 and eligible, I would not want to live there. There's not enough room for me in my tractor. So we're already making a park, so there's nothing we can do about that. It's not in the park plan. So, but I think just you have to remember, if it's a family-friendly area in the Fox Run area, so people who are older are family too. So just kind of think about that a little bit. And I understand where you're coming from. You all got kids, you know. And I go to work every day, whoever was right about that. And my wife goes to work every day. But, you know, the kids are all gone. So there is less cars. So the traffic, it would be less. For sure, whatever they come back with next will have more traffic because there are going to be more houses. Just in perspective, along Jones Boulevard, the houses there are acre lots. The south end of Jones Boulevard and on Forever Green Road, where I live, are acre lots, just give or take. So, but behind that, the development is RS6. So quite a bit more dense. And we already went ahead and did something like that. And so to kind of help with some housing costs and things like that. So just letting you know that the density will probably be higher than this is going to be, or would have been. So, but I would then have been in favor, which is kind of odd because Councilor Stedding and I went a great deal at odds about the other development coming across from me when he was on planning and zoning. So it's a little unusual that we're both thinking the same thing. So, and I don't say that just to chastise you because you worked very hard to let us know what you wanted. We did the same thing, okay? And I totally get that and stuff. We didn't get the same kind of outcome, but we did impact the area. And so that's good. So it's always important to speak up. So I appreciate that. Everybody wrote everything, coming and talking, even though, you know, you don't like public speaking, but you did it, and I appreciate that. So thank you very much.
You have a good memory, Brian. I have no recollection of that. But
oh yeah, we
hang around him long enough, Eric. He'll bring up things like this.
Yeah. I do want to. I think my concern for this property going forward is there is no such thing as affordable housing on this property. I just don't see that happening. That it's hard everywhere in North Liberty just because of the cost of land and obviously the neighborhood is not going to appreciate going up more stories, and so it's just not going to work out. And that's not even in my consideration at all at this point. But I'm done.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I'll just kind of leave it at that as well. We have a conclusion to this evening's discussion imminent. It looks like the five of you up here and all of us in this neighborhood, we need to think about what this could be that's acceptable. Putting a single family home in there that looks like ours, it doesn't exist. Ashley can tell you that as a real estate agent. So at some point in time, some things we'll have to make some decisions. Somebody said during the Good Neighbor meeting most recently that they don't want to be doing this 6 months again. I mean, going through the Good Neighbor meetings, but that's okay. That's part of this process, and eventually something may stick. So, all right. With that, Tracy, we need a roll call, and if you are okay with this moving to the second reading, it'll be an aye, and if you are opposed to it moving to a second reading and this not going any further, it's a nay, correct?
Correct.
All right, Tracy, can we have roll call, please?
Smith.
Nay.
Harrington.
Nay.
Bermel.
Nay.
Sittig.
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
All right. Our motion fails. You guys can leave if you'd like to. For a minute, I'll give you a recess or two, but you can stick around also. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here tonight. Jeff. Why don't we stick that poor guy here? At least he wasn't sitting behind the camera. He was giving him a hard time about that during the P&Z meeting. All right, item 20 is 2 Point LLC and Vantage Point Properties. I'll try to restart this. Item A is staff and commission recommendations. Russ?
I have to give Jeff a hard time because I, purposely put him after this just so we could sit through the whole thing.
At least he wasn't on camera this time. So
I'll spend considerably less time on this, but the PAD in this case was requested to allow some design flexibility. I'm not sure if, I wasn't around, this was before Russ, but where the Wigan Pen is looked a lot different than what it is now, and it's because Jeff's creative mind rehabilitated that place. Obviously, with our design standards with respect to masonry and some of the other things, do very well with the greenfield development, and the built environment throughout our community is reflective of that. Looks very, very nice. It's very challenging in a situation like this where you have existing metal buildings and you want to rehab it. So Jeff and I went back and forth quite a bit of time of just trying to write code of in the case of this, if not that, and it's quite challenging. And what we came to is, I think it would be best to request a PAD to state what you want to do for your flexibility. And so that essentially is the request. So my planning commission, we're excited that this is going to be rehabbed. A to Z is moving from this location to its new location on 240th, which opens up a need. We speak about residential properties, but there's also a need in the community for commercial rents. When you build a brand new facility with land costs and building costs, those equate to very high rent costs. We have an existing facility. Jeff's able to offer a retail space to people that I think are more affordable, and that's reflective in the development that he has just adjacent to it. So Planning Commission did recommend approval of this, and staff does as well.
Thank you, Russ. Any questions for Ryan? Okay. Jeff? By all means, you've sat through this. You may as well spend some time up here with us.
Well, in interest of all of you getting home and being able to see your kids off to school tomorrow, I'll just respond to any questions you have.
What are you envisioning in the extra?
What type of usage?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple of tenants that are interested in growing, and they would be office settings. I also have a group that, here's what I'll give you a little bit bigger picture. Trying to develop a little bit wider spectrum to what I offer. I have the North Liberty CoLab, which is a place to start. And then I have gross leases, which are a place to kind of graduate to. And then with this being some new buildings, new structures, kind of add another addition to the spectrum. So what will go in there is more of the same, but yet has an ability to have larger spaces and also a different lease structure with those. So I don't have everything assigned to it yet to be able to speak to directly, but that's the goal.
There's some interesting buildings or businesses in there. So.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to say thank you. Any other questions?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is going to extend and kind of complete the frontage road that exists there right now?
Yeah, so one of the bigger visions with it is historically the property was owned as a 6-acre parcel. A gentleman in the early 80s cut off that 1 acre that is these buildings sit on. I repurchased it after purchasing the northern property, and so by the design changes are to also make it more cohesive with the buildings that exist to the north. The brick is the same, there's just a few design tweaks and upgrades, but the frontage road will travel in front of it, so from visibility and the drive-by, you'll see a cohesive property that's more symmetrical and cohesive.
Nice. Any other questions for Jeff? All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, item C is public hearing regarding proposed zoning amendment. Either of you three out there have anything to say about this one? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Item D, which is going to sound familiar to everyone that's still here, is first consideration of ordinance number 2023-06. And this is an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for the certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from C2A Highway Commercial District to C2A PAD Highway Commercial District Planned Area Development. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Do you all have any other questions?
I've always known Jeff to be a very creative individual, and Russ, you having the creativity here with this allotment, fits well. So that partnership is what, I've talked ad nauseum about in this town is not just recruiting new businesses, but working with existing business owners and having that teaching, helping hand, and seeing how to creatively solve problems. And you're doing that, and this is just another example of how you're doing that. And I honestly, I know Jeff said in the P&Z meeting that he would take, compliments, but I'm going to give the compliments to you once again, and I'll save him for later. But just the way that you're working with our business owners, couldn't be more pleased, and this is part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll give the compliments to Jeff. I was a former tenant, and I really thought the relationships that you fostered through your commercial spaces were just awesome. There's such a lifeblood of entrepreneurship that is fostered in these locales, and being able to graduate, essentially, as you mentioned, your footprint as a business owner, I think is just a phenomenal opportunity. And the relationships, that some people made within some of these structures has really created quite significant footholds in North Liberty. So I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Any other love for Russ or?
Well,
Great job.
Oh, here we go.
I do recall what this area looked like before.
Yeah.
The before times, I guess. And I do appreciate the improvement that's happened there. It really is a market difference.
Yeah, for sure. I echo that. All right. Tracy, can we have a roll call, please?
Wason?
Aye.
Harrington?
Aye.
Bermal?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Sittig?
Aye.
Motion carries. Look forward to it. Thank you. Item 21 is city-initiated zoning map amendment on property owned by 190-965 LLC. Russ, back to you.
Okay, just these next four are city-initiated rezonings. Now that we've adopted the comprehensive plan, we thought the work was over, but not quite. The next step really, as far as I'm concerned, is to consistency with that comprehensive plan, addressing our zoning regulations to see if those can be tweaked. I do think they do need to. The other is looking at our zoning map and seeing which properties need to achieve consistency with that. Obviously, there was a considerable effort in adopting the plan. The future land use map was a big part of that. We spent a lot of time with that. So really, and a quick panic on my part was looking at all of the properties throughout the city and thinking, oh my gosh, what did I do to myself? And to try and break it down in manageable chunks, because it's really just me and the planning department. And so just speaking with Ryan and Grant, we just kind of looked at this as being a geographical area. And so we took section 12 south of Penn and looked at consistency with that. And that's our first bite of this. So this property is known, this is the BCI property. You can see it's urban high intensity. That is a mixed residential commercial district, really, of our higher intensity uses. I will note that our previous plan, comprehensive plan, this area was designated commercial. And so it's not like it was a change going from residential to our new map to something much different. Staff is recommending this be changed to C3. That's our higher intensity commercial. How do we arrive at the C3 district? That's our highest intensity commercial use. We think that's appropriate for a commercial corridor, particularly like Rancho Way. These two properties, this one and to the north, are really the only. There's one north of the McDonald's, so those three are the only industrial zones on Rancho Way. And I just we don't believe that in the long-term interest of the city, industrial development is appropriate along a major transportation corridor like Rancho Way. Now, a lumberyard, or what we call it a heavy commercial use, is allowable currently in the C3 district. Again, we're going to look at that. So it's not necessarily making this use non-conforming. But if there were changes to zoning regulations, this use would be able to continue in perpetuity. We just can't take that away from people. So we did present this to the Planning Commission. It again agreed with the findings that we had and recommended approval. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing regarding this proposed zoning amendment. Seeing no public for a comment, I'll close the public hearing area. Item C then is first consideration of ordinance number 2023-07, and this is an ordinance amending the zoning map designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa, from RM21 multi-unit residence district to RM12 multi-unit, no.
21.
I have this backwards.
All right, it's 20.
I'm from 21
That's
to
why-
12.
He's just one ahead.
No.
Huh.
Is that the right address for that? These are really confusing ones when I put them together.
All right, so hold on here. So if we're gonna do this, the first one is 195-1965, so I don't know what the ordinance reads, but this one would be I-1 to C3. That sound right?
I don't know.
Okay.
It sounds right.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get them?
I did. Looks like we're supposed to be catching
Is it
this.
160, 965? Is that the
Yes.
address?
Yes.
This is 190.
Leave the,
I think these are all confused.
the ordinance real quick.
So what's in our packet, 2307, is
It's
light
right.
industrial to C3. It's just not written correctly on this.
The ordinance is written correctly, the agenda I have is not correct.
Correct, that's the only thing. The packet looks to be correct.
I know I made the corrections on the agenda.
Page 231 has the ordinance 2023-07, and it does look like it reads correctly.
It's an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from I-1 light industrial to C3 higher intensity commercial district.
Correct. All right, I'm gonna
So that's,
stick to
the
this.
ordinance is correct in the
I'm gonna stick
packet.
to the packet ordinance. Folks, I apologize. We're gonna start this one, not over from A and B. Everything is correct about that. But this is ordinance number 2023-07. This is an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa, from I-1 light industrial district to C3 higher intensity commercial district. Can I have a motion for
moved.
consideration, please?
I'll second.
Thank you all. Is everybody okay with what we just discussed there and did?
So we're talking about where the lumberyard is.
Correct.
Okay.
Going from I-1 light industrial to C3 higher end intensity commercial district. Grant, are we okay proceeding?
Yeah. Yes, Mayor, you are.
Thank you.
Because what was published was the packet.
Yes.
Not the agenda.
Well, yeah.
It's all published, but
It's two, but
My agenda in the packet that I have is talking about the RM12 and 2307.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's what I was just looking at too.
So if that's the agenda that was published, that's what, is there a hurry to do this?
Sort of.
Okay.
I think we can wait if the ordinance, the subsequent ordinance.
Yeah, I don't want to, how do you guys feel about the other ordinance, man? Don't answer that.
any of them correct?
I think it's probably,
I have to say we just skip them.
I would suggest tabling these until our next meeting, and so just to make sure that the agenda can be published, make sure that the correct agenda gets published 24 hours in advance.
So you're recommending tabling items 21, 22, 23, and 24?
I think, yeah,
Let's do that so that we
I think
can
we better.
regroup.
Okay. Okay.
Our apologies.
And a motion to do so.
So moved.
Second.
And do I need a roll call on this? We just need a
Was
voice
there a
vote.
motion on the, already?
There was.
Motion is to table.
But it can always be, table and can always jump in and stop it.
Yeah, table wins.
Table wins. Do I need a roll call on this to table? I think it's probably not a bad idea.
No, but it doesn't hurt.
Okay. Tracy, can we do a roll call to table 21, 22, 23, and 24, please?
Bermal,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Item 25 is zoning code ordinance amendment, and item A is staff and commission recommendations.
Okay, so in our preliminary site plan ordinance, we do not have approval standards, so as I've been reworking the ordinance, just to be clear about what standards we're approving these site plans are, obviously consistency with ordinances and things like that, but also referencing consistency with the comprehensive plan, which we've inserted. We've also discovered during the construction site plan review requirements that emergency vehicles need easement access through those, particularly for developments that don't develop with the traditional subdivision. Case in point is the Solomon Landing, some of the multifamily that were developed. So we just need the right to, codified right to be able to ensure that we get easements to allow emergency back there, police, fire. I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
We typically will require these kind of easements in subdivisions, and we did, for example, for the preserve that has some narrow streets there, and that's part of the developer's agreement, a negotiated type of thing. But there was nothing in the code allowing us to require emergency vehicle access to these to privately owned streets on a site plan, and so this is a means for us to satisfy that end. And as for the approval standards, there was a question in the packet, but that I would echo what Russ said. Just that it's a good idea to say what it is we're making some of these decisions on, and this is intended as a halfway point between council and planning commission should consider this, or versus this should be a full stop requirement. The way this is worded is we need to consider it and give some weight to it, and it can be dispositive on site plan approval or zoning or site plan approval if it doesn't conform with the land use map. But a developer could make a showing that, hey, you know, this actually does work, and we're going to develop this to a higher development standard, or we'll put more masonry on the front, or do whatever, and or the use that we're going to put it is consistent, and then the planning commission or the council could find that that's an okay use of it. The intention here is that we're going to let the moratorium expire, and this is to serve much of that same function until the larger work of going through and rezoning all these parcels is done. We're choosing to do this, or staff is choosing to recommend rezoning in bite-sized pieces. Other times what you'll see is there's a new zoning map and there's one ordinance amendment, and you just get amended the entire thing. It's done like that, or county-wide even, or citywide. I think they did that new map in Davenport when there was a code amendment, just one ordinance and it's all done. We're trying to be thoughtful about that process, and so that's why we're doing this in bite-sized chunks. This ordinance amendment will help give effect to the intention behind that, and it's a good thing to have in there anyway. That being said, happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, and again, I'll just reiterate that the adoption of the comprehensive plan was a big effort, and what we're asking in part is that if they have a use on a property and they're bringing a site plan forward, that we're looking at the comprehensive plan and saying, is this use consistent with the long-range plan? The comprehensive plan, future land use map as adopted, isn't static for the rest of our lives. That map can be changed at your discretion. Planning Commission can certainly recommend. So as these things come up and somebody says, you know, things that's 5 years down the road and things have changed, conditions have changed, this area should be something else, we can certainly change the map, and then the use could be consistent with that. And so Again, I just reiterate that a lot of effort went into the future land use map. We feel like the future land use map, as you've adopted, is pretty good. We spent a lot of time on that. And so we're confident that uses that how they're designated commercial or industrial or things like that they're pretty accurate.
Any questions for these guys? Good? Item B is public hearing regarding proposed ordinance amendments. Seeing no public, I will close the public hearing. And item C then is first consideration of ordinance number 2023-11, an ordinance amending Chapter 165 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances regarding preliminary site plan approval standards and access easement requirements for utility and emergency vehicles. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other questions? Tracy, one last roll call, please.
Weason.
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Bermal.
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
Motion carries. Does anybody else have anything for under old business? New business?
Cleanup day, Saturday.
Thank you. Which I always miss, an dance competition. I just wanted to say thank you, guys. I know this was a lot of work to put in, watching a P&Z meeting, the comments and emails. You guys have been handing out and doling out compliments all night, but you deserve them as well. This was a lot of time and effort and brain power. Thank you very much for what you're doing. Who would like to go home?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Adjacent park for the past 16 years, and I was just there last week with one of them. I walk my dog past this property multiple times a week, every season of the year, and most of my neighbors, I know I've seen one of them just last night doing the same. Just like my neighbors, I've watched this home sit vacant for probably 5 years with that for sale sign hanging in the front yard, blowing in the wind. I've talked with some of you in the audience about what we could do with this property if we owned it. And in the end, the cost of the land has become the biggest obstacle that none of us could make sense. So I've taken the pass on it, and I know others in the audience have done the same. I had hoped, though, that it would somehow be developed in a way that made sense for the neighborhood, preserved as many of those larger pine trees as possible. They're magnificent, and also become something that would benefit our community. This space has garnered a lot of interest over the years, as Ryan can attest. In his 3 years that he's been here, I think he said he's entertained a couple of dozen options for this property, but this is the first time one's ever made it to here at our council chambers. So, and for us to consider. So, what has been brought up in the past has never made it this far, as I'll leave it with that. With that, I'm going to turn this over to you guys in no particular order. I'll let you guys take it from here.
I just want to, I appreciate everyone coming tonight. I think it's important for us to hear from you, and I hear what you're saying. I want to start, I heard some, I guess I find them troubling, but I want to make clear that staff is not, our city staff has a set of rules that they abide by, that they look at development proposals to make recommendations to us about whether they meet the requirements of the code. They did not ask the developers to bring this to them. This was submitted under the procedures that we have, and they have a duty that we've given them to tell us whether this is what we're looking for. That's what we pay them for, and I understand. I don't always agree with them. I'll be very clear with that. But I just want to make clear that I think we have a really good staff, and they're doing what we've asked them to do. And what all they're doing is telling us that under the rules that we've set out, this appears to fit. And so thank you to everyone for doing that. I guess my personal opinion, I kind of like the development. This is the first reading. I'm probably going to vote in favor the first time. I don't know if that's going to continue through the second two. I understand that it's a big deal for the neighbors. I think traffic is something to think about. That's going to be something to think about regardless of what eventually develops here, especially construction traffic. It could be, if this was, say, 8 units an acre, single-family homes, that may build out over 10 years, potentially, depending on the economics. And that's, I see this maybe going a little faster than that. Again, I think it's a hard one, and I appreciate all the comments. I think the stormwater stuff we're going to have to deal with. That's going to be dealt with in the technical review that they're going to have to submit plans for. We're going to see those. But at this point, I'm probably going to vote in favor.
Thank you, Eric.
I've got a few notes I just wanted to bring up. Between Solomon Landing and the homes there and Buckmoon Farms, we're looking at